Ready?
Ready.
Oh, mic's on, sorry. Mic's on.
Mic's on.
Thank you. We're back on the record. Good afternoon. This is the Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for April 14, 2015. We'll begin with the zoning calendar. Decision items. Item number 13, 17613BZ, 31 Bond Street, Manhattan. Sheldon.
Frank St. Jacques, Sheldon Lobel for the applicant.
Okay, I think we had a sign off on air quality since, but anyway, but we can grant on a condition of compliance with the DEP requirements, sub-slab depressurization and whatever else it was that they require, so we won't be too redundant. So, for a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Item number 14, 3714BZ, 8610-10 Roosevelt Avenue, Queens.
Hello again, Eric Palatnik. Well, I think you have to reopen.
Yeah, we need, so for a motion to reopen?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
So we've communicated with your staff about the property being partially within a residential district within the R6. So we're redesigning the building, the gym space, the PCE space, so that that portion that's within the R6 won't be as a part of the application. And it'll just be the portion that's in the C2 zone.
And you don't need to pass through the R as an
for
accessory
egress
access?
No, they're able to do that, and the architects are drawing the plans right now. So we hope to have them to you in a couple of weeks. And we got the message about showing where the acoustic measures would be. That was on our last submission, but we'll put them onto the new plans also.
It was on your last submission?
Yeah, I don't have the plans with me because we're asking for an adjournment.
Sound attenuation notes, drawings should show where acoustical measures were taken?
Well, there were, oh no, that I don't have. I didn't get that information. It added acoustical notes that you wanted on the plan. But you actually want to know where they were taken from?
Yeah, that was the issue there. I think the notes were already on the plan, but it didn't, and it even showed a detail, but then you don't know where the details are. Normally, there's a detail wall and a little symbol for the number wall. It's like a number 2, and then there's a little line that goes through the walls, and it tells you this wall is a number 2 wall, and that wall is a number 1 wall. You know, some symbol so you know where those walls are.
All right, let me see if I could. I don't know if the architect is that savvy. Let me communicate with him and see.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know if he's done.
Those drawings.
I don't know if he's.
That was like Leonardo da Vinci used that system.
Leonardo da Vinci and an architect from Astoria, Queens are two totally different animals.
Okay, and also it's a legalization, so the fire alarms and sprinklers should have already been installed. So we need to know that it was already installed and there were fire department sign-offs. And the notes, of course, should say existing sprinkler system, and also ditto for the sound attenuation. And we wanted a signage proposal or something, signage calcs, because we don't know what's going on with the signs. And then if I just, a little confused because we found out about this zoning district line at the last minute. What's up with that?
Well, it wasn't shown as you saw on the plans. It wasn't shown on the plans. And the architect had denoted it originally as being all within the C2 zone. So the architect made the mistake, and that's what we followed as well. But now, of course, and you called it out, the architect went back, and we're a little more than 25 feet. I think we're more than that, about 40 feet into the residential zone.
So it's an existing, for one, it's an existing.
It's a previously existing non-conforming building.
No, but the legalization of the use. So currently, the use is extended into the R district, right?
Currently it is, but that'll be ceasing.
Okay. That's weird. Don't they have a lease?
Yes.
So they're going to rewrite the lease, and there's no way to get to the other section?
It's just a small portion of most of the space that's been impacted by it is the office areas, which they don't necessarily need to have as a part of the PCE. And the remainder of the space is the aerobics room, which it takes off a small piece of the aerobics room.
I thought you said it's 40 feet.
It is, but the 40-feet portion that it's coming into the building from the rear is the portion where there's the office is for the PCE. So they don't need to be located there. They can relocate a couple. They could have one office somewhere else, and they could have the remainder of their business offices off-site. They don't need to have them there.
Okay,
so
you need to show this very clearly.
We will.
But so just getting back to a conversation we had a little bit earlier. Aren't you the lawyer in charge of the project?
Yes, of
Aren't you a
course.
zoning specialist?
Of course.
Aren't a lot of architects not especially zoning
Well,
specialists?
I rely, of course, as everybody does, and you have the plans in front of you that we filed, on architect's representation to tell me. I can't eyeball and tell you where a line runs.
But
And
you
the architect...
You know how to look at a zoning map.
And to me, when I look at the zoning map and I see that line run through, it didn't give me any indication to believe it didn't encompass the entire property. I didn't realize it. And we had the architect's plans that showed it all being located within an R6,
Okay,
within the
so
C2.
here's the
But
thing we
it
have
was a
to stop
mistake, and we'll
now.
correct it.
Okay, here's the thing we have to stop now.
Relying on
We
architects.
at the board do not do your work. You do your work, and then we review your work, right? So from now on, you personally are responsible for what you submit, okay? And so you have to check what the architect does.
I am. With all due
Wait,
respect,
let me-
Madam Chair,
no,
I am
don't
not a
interrupt me.
I am
I'm
not a registered architect.
Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. We're going to do this because we spend far too much time figuring out mistakes from your applications. Don't interrupt. We're going to get this out
I
here.
take a lot of
No,
offense at that. That first application this morning, the Board of Standard Appeals was submitted the required paperwork. The Board of Standard Appeals did not have it. And for you to throw it up in my face that we somehow did something incorrect when it was the agency's own administrative process that didn't process the paperwork, and to throw that in my face at this hearing, I think is incredibly unprofessional and disrespectful. I did not make a mistake this morning. We submitted the paperwork to you. There was a misunderstanding. Vice Chair Hinkson thinks Department of Building shouldn't have approved it. Ira Gluckman, Commissioner, says they should have. That was not my mistake. As far as this goes and this problem that's going on right now, the architect clearly on the plans, which the board has in their possession, registered architect certified by the state of New York, he signed and sealed plans that showed it being in the district. When I looked at the zoning map, I did not notice it. Yes, that is my mistake. But to put the burden on me of the
the
professional, I am the applicant, but I'm not a registered architect, Madam
But you're
Chair.
a zoning specialist.
I'm a zoning specialist, but
And
I
those
cannot tell you.
architects are not zoning
But I
specialists.
cannot tell you the dimension of a line. I rely upon an architect to
Then you
get.
ask the architect
I
to say,
did.
what do you know, there's a line running through the site.
did.
Where does it fall?
We
You did. When?
relied upon the plans that showed it. If you look at the plans, it shows
no.
it as being within a C2 district. I went through it with the architect. I looked at the zoning map before I filed it, and it looked like it was. The discrepancy that's there is so minute that the 40 feet out of the 100 and whatever feet, that you actually have to measure it out to see if it's within the district. The architect did not. They made the mistake. I apologize on their behalf. But to attribute the architect's mistake on a measuring issue, this wasn't as if you look at the zoning map and it's clear as day to everybody and their mother that the property is within a residential zoning district, and how could you Palatnik be so stupid and not have seen it? If I handed that zoning map out to 30 different zoning attorneys and said, what district is this property in, I'd make a gentleman's bet with you that I would get at least 20% of 20 of them that would turn around and say, oh, it's in a C2 zone. And then I show them the architect's plans that affirm the fact that it's in the C2 zone. I mean, I'm trying to accommodate the board, but I don't feel as if it's fair that you're telling me that we're not giving you the right information. It's my mistake that the architect put on signed and sealed plans, and I'm relying. I have a certain amount of trust in the Department of Buildings. I have a certain amount of trust in the architects. I try to rely upon that. But to go beyond that and put the burden upon me of actually sitting down with a protractor and measuring the boundary line and then putting that onto the architect, when you discover it or somebody discovers it, I'll correct it. And if I see it's wrong, I'll stop it. But what happened this morning with Vice Chair Hinkson, the discussion we had with Department of Buildings, I respectfully disagree. Ira Gluckman is a very smart man. He is within his purview of approving plans that are in front of him, and he approved them. If the board felt that they shouldn't have been approved, they were approved in error, and that I should have said something to Ira, that you shouldn't have approved it, that's your opinion, but I certainly didn't do anything.
That's not what the point was. You didn't inform us at all that there was a difference between the drawings, and we shouldn't be talking about that case here. So I just want to say that you can't abdicate your responsibility for these applications. You can't, because it's not our job to do your work. It's not our job to find the problems.
I don't want you
And
to find the
so
problems.
I need you to just hear this, and I need you to process it, and I need you to change the working behavior, that you take more responsibility for what goes on in the applications, because we can't spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of staff time and then discover, what do you know, the application is maybe can't even be filed at all, or maybe it's totally different than what was submitted.
I understand your point. I understand your point, but You understand that
So
I
I
am
just
not,
need you
I
to-
understand that you're a registered architect and that you have the
I just need you
abilities.
to process what I
I'm-
just said.
I'm with you.
I don't want to hear an argument. That's your responsibility. It's all the applicant's responsibilities. Clean, put together, analyzed carefully, personally reviewed. I've had conversations about this with other people. You personally have to take
we
responsibility
do.
for what goes into your application. You have to review it. You have to know that it's correct because in the end, it's your baby and it can't be our
And I
baby.
feel the same exact way
Okay.
as you do.
So let's move on then, okay? All right, so you know what you have to do with this.
We will amend the paperwork, and we are amending the plans right now so that they're reflected partially being within the C2, in the R6. And we will include a signage and include the fact that the sprinkler system is in place. I'll double check that it is in fact in place, and we'll include that on the
And
plan.
provide proof that it's in place. Usually we see a fire department sign off. We also see alteration applications that are signed off for the sprinkler and the fire alarm work.
We'll provide you with all that.
Okay, so it's going to take you a while to deal with that whole thing. So how about a submission in the end, towards the end of May?
That'll be great.
Okay, so what is that? May 15th? No, sorry, May 14th for June 2nd hearing.
Thank you.
Item number 15, 242 14BZ, 212 East 57th Street, Manhattan.
Good afternoon, Jay Goldstein for the applicant.
Good afternoon. So I don't think we had any other issues, so for a motion to grant?
Chair Promoter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson.
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez.
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Continued hearing items, item number 16, 30-12BZ, 14241 Roosevelt Avenue, Queens.
Okay, you wanted 6 weeks, is that?
Yeah, the owners are still trying to determine, as you'll recall, in the first hearing we had on this board, with the new board after the remand, it was requested that we provide some type of recapture of exhaust from all of the cars that are parked outside, and you didn't want to see any exhaust leak from the cars. We've been researching systems like that, and we can't even find any that exist that capture all of the exhaust. So we're trying a little bit harder to see if we can find something.
Environmental consultants are usually helpful on this.
Yeah, the systems that we are discovering, there are suction systems that run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but obviously that'll bankrupt the program that we have here, so we're trying to find some other ideas.
Okay, so then if you could, is a submission on May 28th work? Is that too soon?
No, that's great.
Okay, submission on May 28th for a hearing on June 16th.
Thank you.
Item number 17, 343-12BZ, 570 East 21st Street, Brooklyn.
Do you have anyone here on this? They asked to adjourn to May 19th, which is okay, to submit on April 21, with opposition submitting on, really should really be April 30th.
Opposition April 30th?
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 18, 155-13BZ, 1782, 1784 East 28th Street, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, Lyra J. Altman from the Law Office of Frederick A. Becker. I did attend your executive session yesterday, heard your comments regarding landscaping. I already have a revised plan in hand showing landscaping right here, and right here in front of the building. We will, of course, submit these formally to your board, but we wanted to show you the architect has already made some modifications based on your comments.
I think we also had a question about parking.
I don't believe so.
Yes, you still have 3 residential units, 3 dwelling units on the
I
lot.
apologize, that comment did not come back to me yesterday.
Oh, but you're removing all the garages. So isn't there required parking for the residential units?
It's something I will look at. It's something, as I said, I hadn't had that handed back to me. I apologize, and I will look at that for you.
think so. I think that was it.
So what do you think?
Any speakers?
Oh, are there any speakers on this? It's true, I didn't ask on the last one. I'm sorry.
If we could have 2 weeks to submit,
2 weeks?
please. As I said, I would have been ready to submit in 2 days for the plan, but I
Right,
want to
now
make
we-
sure the required parking, let's take some time to look at it.
So again, if you could submit on April 30th, does that work? That's a Thursday. For a hearing on May 19th, right? 1, 2. Yeah, May 19th.
Thank you very much. And if this is something that the board is satisfied with, given the fact these are so few, the comments, would it be possible to potentially decide it that day?
Yeah.
So possible close and vote?
Close and grant, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Item number 19, 24813BZ, 1179 East 28th Street, Brooklyn. Sheldon LaBelle's office? Oh.
Frank St. Jacques, Sheldon LaBelle, PC, for the applicant, here with the architect.
Louis Garfinkel.
How you doing? So we attended the review session yesterday. We understand there was some concerns with the submission. I have the architect here to speak specifically to the revised plans, and would also add that we can resubmit with a letter clarifying what revisions were made and clearly indicating with bubbling and red text those revisions. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Garfinkel.
You're doing, so there was a comment about the changes to the attic. There was,
Yeah, I'm not sure why, how were you responding to the, I don't really know what these
There was
drawings were
the-
submitted for.
the issue was this, the FAR, that in the previous submission, portions of the front of the attic were over 8 feet, and the question was, am I counting it in the FAR? So what I realized was it's a smaller portion than what we thought, and I delineated that, that's what you're calling that little appendix in the front. And I upped the FAR a little. I don't, do you have the zoning sheet? I don't know if
It
I,
says 101,
Yeah,
1.101.
yeah,
Okay. But other than that, you weren't making any other changes to the drawings, right?
correct, yeah.
Okay. Just
Landscaping, I
sped
showed.
things up if you had told us what this is about, because it looks just like the other set.
Well, I think
Other
I
than that
had
nose.
asked the,
And the
whether all the attic floor area had been, over 8 feet had been counted.
Yes,
So I think
yeah.
that was the purpose of his.
It was-
Okay, and then there was
Yeah, was
supposed to have been planting. in
Yeah, so I
the
showed in the
front.
front, the,
You showed the front. What did you show in the front?
there's an area in front of the deck that
Has planned.
has an existing planting, and I just called it out and I enlarged it a little.
You called it out by having dots?
The dots, yes.
How do we know what
Right.
that is?
Did you do any
Yeah, did
calculation?
you put the calculations?
No. Actually, there was I can, submit further. The porch was filed before the grass laws were
Before the landscape.
before the landscape were enacted in the zoning.
That could have a
Lands-
lot of meanings.
I think,
Yes.
I tell my clients grass. So, that porch was actually filed with a permit, so I could
Well, it
look
might
into that.
comply. I'm not sure. What
Yeah.
is it, 25% requirement? or-
Yeah, it should be 25% on this size lot.
But if
Yeah.
you're making the argument that the porch was constructed prior to, prior to the regulations, then you should make that statement.
Yeah, I
guess
understand.
The answer is
Yeah.
just give us an answer to the
I
landscaping
understand.
issue.
Yeah, because you're actually, on your drawings, you're saying open porch subject to DOB approval, so that sounds unbuilt.
Right. So if it's there
Okay.
and you're arguing that it's in place and
Okay.
therefore, yeah.
And legal, by the way.
Yeah,
If
tell-
it's subject to DOB approval, did they approve it?
Right, I get you. Okay, we can clarify that.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, critical on the drawings is you draw something, what is it? That's what the writing part is for.
Okay, I
And
got
then
the
when you
message.
change something, really, we can't find it unless you point it out. So, or we can't tell what the scope of it is, so maybe redline those as opposed to bubbling it so we can see which actual lines are different. Otherwise, it
Okay.
becomes totally Where's Waldo, and we don't have time for that. Okay.
No problem. Okay.
But we could
Okay.
probably,
Right, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can close on this, because I
Okay.
actually don't even know what the submission was about here. So, all right, so
Okay.
let's close and you submit the clarifications, and then we can vote next time. Okay, so
Okay.
for a motion to close,
Chair Perlmutter,
aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
Aye.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
How much time do you need?
I think.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
So, 2 weeks to submit. So if you submit it on April 30th, we could have a decision on May 12th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 230113BZ, 1502 Avenue N.
Hello again, your favorite applicant of the day, Eric Plavik.
Try to become our really favorite applicant.
We're trying so hard. We really are. I understand what you're saying, though, and I don't mean to argue with the board. It's not my style. Not my style at all. I think we have an application here that's in the right zoning district,
That's a good start.
and I think you got all of my submissions. And we did make a mistake. We didn't carry over the correction from the floor area. We apologize, and the number of dormitory rooms,
Or
the
the number of
FAR.
parking spaces or the
Right.
number of bicycle
Beds.
spaces.
Right, we're going to carry all that over, but as you know, what we submitted a couple weeks ago was reducing the beds from 64 to 54, reducing the FAR down to 4.18, and reducing the height from 58 feet to 54 feet, and setting back the enlarged portion of the building on either side. So we,
And think about how much shorter this hearing would have been if you had done that in the statement of facts.
if we've done
It would
what?
be like, oh, you answered all the questions. Oh, the application is actually assembled and put together and coherent.
About which
and-
questions?
And coordinated and all that stuff. And instead, we have to wait again for you to do that.
To do what?
Amend the statement of facts. to
We could
look
amend
like
that very, very quickly, but
No,
the
no.
application was...
Wait. Let's just stay there for a second. No. We figured it out because we looked at the plans. And we said, oh, look, those plans are different than the other plans. Because I remember the number 64. I remember we talked about how many bedrooms. And then I'm looking at like, math. It's not equaling 64. So maybe it's not 64. But did the statement of facts help me get there? They did not.
They will in the future. It was
No,
in the...
but in the future, every statement of facts will match the materials that are submitted, because what you're doing is you're helping us understand
And
the
we want to.
story, and you're putting together a coherent application, so we only have to read it once, and we reduce
What happened to
the
your
number
comment at the beginning of the review session where you said pleasure to read?
It's a pleasure to read the programmatic requirements part. which
We spent a
really
lot of time.
well
I
done.
apologize. We did miss those, and I apologize. But the rest, we spent a lot of time, and I think it's showing through on the rest of the application.
Okay.
And hopefully it did.
Okay.
I hope.
No, the programmatic stuff was good.
Good. I'm
And
glad.
the drawings were responsive to our concerns. And then I was imagining, what would we do if we took off another floor? But then, happily, there's a building diagonally across the
Yes.
street that's the same size. And I'm not persuaded at all about the other yeshivas, because they're gigantic on gigantic lots, so you can't really apples to apples them. It's a totally different argument. Okay. So,
I had asked a question, because when you originally bought the synagogue, it was in R6. And I was curious, if this was still in R6, what waivers would you really need?
We have for you a zoning analysis that we put together last evening that responds to that.
Okay.
good.
I could pass that up to the board right now. Excuse me?
None?
Yeah, it'd basically be
That was
compliant.
what I was wondering.
It would
Yes.
comply. Oh, well, that's important. Okay.
Yeah.
Should have been out there talking to your elected officials when that was happening. Anyway. So, and I know we had a question about whether there's a document that shows the sort of dorm room standards.
You have another one?
Classroom standards, we understand about the square
good?
footage per
Sure.
student. But what are the dorm room standards? that they're
There's
based
nothing really, Lewis looked around, there's nothing definitive out there that sort of does, the building code gives the standard of, you have it right there in the attachment that we're handing out, gives, one of them is occupant load requirements, and it puts it at 1 per 50 square feet. So,
For a dorm room?
about-
For a dorm room.
What about
Institutional
dorms like
sleeping
that the
room?
state builds, or, like for SUNY, or, don't they have, there's got to be some
standard
that
for
they
the
use.
state
Yeah.
dormitory? We could take a look and find out.
Right, that would be the logical place to look first, is to see who builds dorms and what, state or municipality is building them and to what standard. So if New York City or the state of New York builds these things, then that might be a source of being able to tell us, what we could accept or what we should accept, right?
We'll be happy to look into that.
Also, you circled children. These aren't children.
No, there's not an extra, just share.
Oh, sorry. You circled children as the institutional sleeping room. These are adults, over 18 or more, right?
Do you want to come up?
This is college, basically college, right?
Right.
So it's, it would be the adults, which is 75 square feet a person in a institutional sleeping room. And the reason for the concern is you've got 6 adult guys living together in a room. That's a lot of guys. So just saying that there might be a standard
That we're not
to save
hitting.
at least one of them
Understood.
the pain and suffering of living with too many guys.
Not going there.
Right. So just to clarify that, please, because we do want to make sure it's a compliant room. And then the other thing that we wanted to know was your schedule, right? The schedule on the classrooms?
Right.
Right, it looks as if you have 5 classrooms, each with an identical schedule that shows that they're actually only in use for about 3 hours per day.
Yeah, they did 3 to 4 hours. Most are 3. One room is 4.
So the question that follows is then, do you really need the 5 classrooms, or
Yes.
can you somehow stagger your schedule?
No,
So that you can make do
because
less?
as we tried to highlight that on page 7 of our statement, where we went into it a little bit. But the premise of the school is that the older students guide the younger students. So there's a level of camaraderie that goes on. So they do everything together. So as you look at the schedule, you'll see they dine together. You'll see that they have base midrash study sessions together. They have a host of different activities that they do together. So when they're not together is when they go back to their classrooms. So when the classrooms are all empty at the same time, it's because all the students are together somewhere else. So it's not as if you could break up the student. It would be against the program to break the students up to send some back up to a classroom because it's empty. So
Correct.
that's the idea of
I
it.
think I'd like the rabbi actually to speak about his program, just to clarify.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Thanks.
Could you identify yourself for the record, sir?
My name is Rabbi Jofin, and I'm the dean of the school. Let me begin by saying that I'm trained as a Talmudist, and the repartee between Madam Chairman and my esteemed attorney is worthy of any Talmudic argument I've been involved in my 40 years of training. Really first rate. And done with cordiality and collegiality, and really first rate.
I'll bet you say that to all the boards.
I'm good at what I do, but I'm also biased towards telling the truth. Anyway, let me just say that my attorney put it very well. The basic structure is the students study together when they're not in class. There's no way, and that's a necessity for the whole structure. We all study in a big study room. There's individual instruction in classes, but when they're studying not in class, they're all studying together. There's no way to stagger it. It just doesn't work. It's not the way the study is done. The older students, besides the teacher, the older students learn with the younger students, and they bring them along. And it's one big bet midrash, one big study hall, where you have 100 people sitting and studying together. And if we break that stuff, we break what we supply. Besides the teaching, is this atmosphere of intellectual challenge, where the discourse starts from the younger to the older, and the ideas change, and that's what makes it work. So it would be a good idea, and I would be the first one to save in the budget. My time is better spent pedagogically than raising money and building buildings. I build what's necessary only because it can't be done any other way. and I'm a little disabled, but I hope my passion for my cause comes through. We're doing a wonderful service, and these boys are growing, and we're making rabbis, and the community, which is a wealthy community, benefits from having young people studying and seeing people struggling and growing. And I think we're doing a good service to the community, and I know the community there's not one objection, and everybody comes to me and says, Rabbi, we hope you present with passion the feelings of the whole community that want us to succeed.
Okay.
Any questions that I could address?
I think that covers it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
He's a good icebreaker, isn't he?
Yeah, really good. You're good at parties, clearly.
My wife says I told you.
Okay. So, let's see, I don't think we had any other issues, right? May all your applications go as smoothly as this one. Are there any speakers on this item?
Thank you for the wishes.
So, we can close? So, for a motion to close?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Okay, so you're just going to submit on those?
We'll submit with the corrections, and we will submit with information that the vice chair and you had asked for regarding the state dormitory guidelines.
Right, and then a little statement about how the students all have to study together, and that's why the classrooms are not occupied during that time.
Yeah, we'll add that. We'll refer to that. It's already in the statement, but we'll refer to it again.
Maybe.
See, we're pretty thorough on a lot of things. It's just a couple of things once in a while might
One of
miss.
the couple
Is
like
the one
raising
enough that kills it. I get it. I
Be a couple,
I get it. Should be none. Should be none.
Let it go, let it go, let's go.
All right.
Miss Matthias is singing "Let It Go" from the Frozen song.
Okay, so what do we think? I don't think that's going to be a lot of time. There's no drawings or anything.
No, we don't need much time at all.
So how about a submission on, wait a minute, sorry. On the 30th of April for a hearing on May 19th?
That's great.
Decision.
I'm sorry.
Decision.
We closed, right? The
Yeah.
decision on May 19th.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 21, 17-14BZ, 600 MacDonald Avenue.
They asked to adjourn this. Oh,
I just
hi.
want the yes, Moshe Friedman for Friedman P., the applicant. We are working on it. I just want you to see, it took me a long time to convince the client. I took Madam Chairperson's
Should we reopen?
advice.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, we're
Should we
actually
reopen?
a closed thing, so.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's not decision,
We
I'm sorry.
adjourned and adjourned, we don't have
It is
to. do it.
adjourned.
Sorry,
So I just
sorry.
took time to convince the client to do
Sorry.
what the chair wants. I just want you to see what's in the progress.
Okay, but it was more like we had adjourned this until today, right? From way back when, we sort of took it off the calendar, if I have my notes
Right.
correct.
Oh, I didn't-
In October, because we wanted you to have enough time to really do this.
Well-
So we don't want to keep adjourning,
100%.
okay?
Well, we have to now go from the outside in. And because the design is really changing.
I'll say.
And we're trying to do, it's an interesting design. It gives some depth and changes to the building, and it makes it look like something. So, yes, it's fine to take it off the calendar.
Till you're really ready. really
Correct.
ready.
We want to give you a programmatic needs
Yeah.
to study, but I can't do that until the inside is done, and I can't do the inside till the outside is done.
Right, okay.
And you're going to have to explain how you're going to
We'll get
create
this,
all the new columns and do all this excavation and work from the inside without closing down the school.
correct. The structural, we had told him, but when the structural engineer will be here at the next hearing.
And also, it's very important what it looks like on the other side.
Yes, but,
Yes, that's
I know,
incredibly
but we need to do, you know.
Yes. So,
No, I just,
it's a work in progress, it's good.
Correct,
You showed
it's-
us that you're in progress, but, right, so let
That's
us
it.
know when you're ready with some serious real stuff to submit that ready
Right,
to go?
you'll
So we
get
can
a
have
full-
substantive Conversation.
Yeah, you'll get a full submission with, which we try.
Yeah, much better than, needless to say, much better.
It's not always easy with the clients.
Can't live without.
No, you have to understand, they're coming from the Hasidic community. This is not, this is not a typical building that they're used to seeing, let's put it that way. So it was a learning curve for them also.
Okay.
Okay, so this is off calendar?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, well, we appreciate you coming with
Well, he's
this
running
progress job.
Item number 22, 3114 BZ, 165 Spencer Street.
Moshe Friedman for Friedman PE. Let me, give me 1 second. Too much papers. Okay, so we had given you a full submission this time, and I believe you had some questions, so if the board doesn't mind, I'll go through what I believe were the questions, and then we can go back. Regarding the administrative offices and some therapy rooms, et cetera, we just called everything offices. I'll submit another set of plans if you want me to break it down. A nurse's office, the cook's office, tuition, secretary, this principals, one for each floor.
Yeah, it's like, why do you need so many offices?
It's not all,
Goes in them?
right, it's not offices. They're part of copy room, nurse's office, the teacher's room. We just all called it office, but it's not, I already have a set of plans that have, last night, we already took care of it. We'll submit that with the changes.
It's not just the plans, though. In the programmatic requirements that were done were actually very clear. It has to be included in that.
I understand.
They were about classrooms. That was very clear. But there were all these offices, and it didn't explain what the programmatic requirements are. We have a nurse, we have this kind of therapist, or whatever, right?
100%. We'll update the programmatic report. With that, now, the next thing. How the size of the lunchroom was determined? As big as we could get. And therefore, we made the program work around the size of the lunchroom. We couldn't get any more room. If they could get more classes in at the same time, they would love to.
Oh. So in other words, but the lunchroom is accommodating a certain number of
Yes,
students,
and we
right?
have that and it's in the report that the programmatic report has the schedule and how they have like 3 classrooms 3 grades at a time, and that's
So 3 grades at a time, though, they decided, based on something, that you could get three classes at a time in there, right? There's like a
the
square
building.
footage
Yeah,
analysis.
square
What
footage
is it?
analysis.
So the lunchroom is allowed to have this many students per square foot. That's what we need.
And that's what I
Okay.
got on there. That's the old one. I believe it's on there.
There was a reference to a play yard.
Yeah, the play yard is, they're just going to play in the concrete driveway on the side. Yeah, this is the city, I'm sorry. Maybe one day they'll get up onto the roof, but...
But you don't want to include the roof as part of the...
Let me talk to I will talk to the school. If they want to, we'll add that in.
Okay.
1 second.
So one of the things that, you have 2 UPK rooms and 3 kindergartens, right?
Right.
And I don't know about the upper grades, but we are just learning that the Department of Health gets in on this act, right?
Right.
So we need to know that the Department of Health has reviewed this and is okay with the layout, the location of the rooms, all
Oh,
that stuff.
no
And
problem.
how many square feet per kid, because apparently that's...
Yes, the UPK rooms were designed with that in mind. I mean, they know the program, but I'll see if I can get some sort of something in writing or something.
It's the Bureau, Rory, it's the Bureau of Child Care Services, is that who does this?
Have you dealt with them? Robert Greenbaum.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Okay,
I'll look into
so-
it.
Yeah, so
Not a problem.
Talk to Rory, who knows all the contact information, and they've been very helpful with us, and will guide you in whether the classrooms are the right size, right location, access to egress, all that stuff for the kids at the different age groups.
Great.
Okay, yeah, it's great.
No, it takes a lot off. Okay.
Okay.
Now, next. Oh, the DEP. Now, this is very interesting. On November 12th, a whole new EAS was submitted with the noise analysis and the air quality analysis. So it's not like DEP just got it on March 10th. They got it back in November. We don't understand.
You submitted it to them?
I submitted it to staff, the new EAS.
No, but you didn't receive it way back then. Apparently, Rory didn't I don't want to get into like the unfortunate, but apparently we didn't receive it.
Because it's funny, because they got it right after I emailed it. I got like 2 weeks later, we got a response that they were happy, and we did we did that. Then that's when we started doing that other analysis. Then somehow DEP took its time till January 20th to, because afterwards we right away gave in the work, the HASP, and January 20th they approved the HASP.
Right.
But we never got the letter of January 20th. The work plan, right.
Yeah.
They approved the work plan on January 20th, which was in response, I thought, to the submission that I gave on November 12th. Because on November 12th, we gave it in. Then we got to say, okay, give us a work plan. So we gave him the work plan a little bit later than that. By January 20th, we got an approval to the work plan. Somehow DEP misplaced it. We didn't get it to the middle of March, which is why they only went to do the testing last week, Thursday. Otherwise, we would have been finished already with all the testing. Mm-hmm. The testing, the minute we were told, go ahead, do the testing, we did it. It was done already on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah. It's all right. So they're currently reviewing it. There's just one little point, which I think was here about the adverse impacts related to noise.
Not. Oops.
Oops. I hate
typo.
when that happens. Right. Okay.
That was me. Typo. And because I do not touch type, I hunt and peck, and I apparently, when I'm looking, I did not hit the word not. So that totally, the report had it correctly.
Yeah.
It's my paraphrasing of the report that has it incorrectly.
No, actually, Equity Environmental also has it incorrectly in their introduction.
I may have copied it.
Yeah, you
cut and paste. Okay.
So they're the ones who led you astray. Okay. So.
Oh.
And then there was a clarification request on the site search.
Well, you made varying statements. You state that you're going to have a population of 500 students in pre-K to 8th grade, but in your statement of facts and your needs statement, you also talk about your current location and having 500 students, including the pre-K, elementary, middle school, and high school.
Right.
So you're not going to be moving your high school clearly in there.
Right.
So what portion of the students do you currently have now that's pre-K, elementary, and middle school? Is it 500 or is it less?
It's less.
We're going to go up to 500.
We're going to go up to 500.
That's all I wanted.
Okay, fine. So you know what? I will, in our statement of facts, to define it, whichever one it has it there, I'll be a little more clear with that. That's not a problem. I think also the board wanted to see like a breakdown of the students per floor. This is a little rough, but it's just for you to see, and we'll include it into the programmatic study meeting.
Okay, right, because we could do the math, but it's better if you do the math.
Or two separate ones?
Okay, good, thank you.
That just gives it to you a little clearly. It's nice tables, and we'll put them in to the programmatic report.
One by one.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
good.
sorry, I'm
Yeah,
trying to collate.
you'll incorporate that in your next submission.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any other comments, questions? Are there
They're
any
2
speakers?
pages, 2 pages each.
Are there any speakers on this? Okay, so in terms of what we're needing clarified,
programmatic stuff, to be specific, I think we need that before we can close, right? So, yeah, because it still goes to the need for all those little offices. So, okay, so we need one more of these, but maybe what we could do is if we're happy with it, we could close grant the next time. That work?
Everything else is in order.
If everything is in order and you submit to us a really great response to these questions, hallelujah,
And get DEP
then-
approval.
yeah, and DEP approval, that's maybe our, oh, that's true. It's not going to be right, okay. The reality check on DEP and what they ask for.
That's
but
not up to you.
In an optimistic world, we might be able to close grant if we time the hearing date well and you submit such a perfect thing that we don't have to do any more.
With God's help.
Okay, so let's give you enough, give DEP anyway enough time. So it's April 14th. Yeah, maybe 6 weeks for, isn't that right? 6 weeks for DEP to complete its review?
Did you submit the phase 2
Oh,
of
you
the
didn't submit the
testing?
sample?
The testing was just done on Thursday. We should submit it within the next week, I
But
hope.
You're going to submit the sampling report?
As soon as it's finished. Jim says about a week it takes.
2 to 3. So what should... 5 weeks. 6 weeks. At least 6 weeks. Yeah. All right, so at least 6 weeks for the DEP story.
Right. So let's give it 8 weeks.
Yeah, okay, good. You're easy. So how about we say June 16th for the hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Your submission, then you don't have to really make until May 28th. But obviously, if we hear from DEP before, that would be good. So
Right.
it's not, we're not on pins and needles. But June 16th for the hearing, and if we have everything in order, we can close grant.
I truly appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 23, 9814BZ, 404 Richmond Terrace, Staten Island.
Hi, Eric Palatnik on behalf of Rothkrug and Spector, who submitted an adjournment request.
Okay, so that was, you requested May 12th?
Correct.
Correct. So with a submission on April 23rd, do you have enough time? Is that enough?
No, it's not. Could we push it back maybe to submit the first week in May and then
Okay,
have another
so
hearing date?
submit the first week in May. Okay, so then that's submit May 7th, for example?
Okay.
Which would mean 1, 2, that puts us at June 2nd. We don't have a hearing the last week of May.
That's fine.
That's okay, so you don't need to submit that early then. So June 2nd means May 14th submission.
Great, thank you.
Item number 24, 12714BZ, 3241 101st Street, Queens.
Eric Palatnik, same appearance.
Okay, same then. So
May 14th, June
May
2nd?
14th, June 2nd, yeah.
Thank you.
Item number 25, 14614BZ, 285 Grant Street, Manhattan.
Good afternoon. Frank St. Jacques, Sheldon Lobel, PC for the applicant. We attended the review session yesterday and noted the commission's complaints. We would just note that there's no existing complaints at the with respect to the premises. All notice has been provided to the tenants. A noise study was performed, and the applicant has agreed to install the limiter and use mats with respect to any weights. Those notes have been added to the existing plans.
It's not just mats, it's actually, I don't know, I think we need to check the language. It's Criterion actually designed these special dropping platforms for their other clients.
Right.
They're not mats. It's like a major structure. It's like this 8-inch high thing you step up onto with lots of different variations on acoustical padding, and you stand on it and you do your lift and then you drop onto that thing.
Understood. Okay. So this is what's referenced in the Criterion Acoustics. It's the 6-inch fitness mats or the Genie 70-inch rubber mats by Plytech.
I don't know if it's the same thing. So, because it wasn't a prefabricated thing. It was something, we can give you, know what? How about this? Rory can give you a copy of the detail from the other gym, and that's what we want, okay?
Understood. So I'll get that information from Rory and bring that to my client.
So we can close on it. That will be, you'll update the submission to make reference to that detail, and just to know that this is going to be a very limited term, because we have so much trouble with these kinds of gyms, and we don't know whether this is a long-lived concept in New York City.
Understood. If I may just speak to that briefly, I would submit that the 2 years is really a very, very limited and short period of time. We would ask that, obviously we would ask for the 10-year grant if at all possible, but we would just note for the record that we believe that 2 years is unreasonable, given the time and expense it takes to undergo the PCE application. And we fully understand that there are noise, vibration, all these types of concerns which the applicant believes that they have addressed with respect to this application. Given the noise study that was submitted, the sound limiting, the sound limiter that will be installed, and the use of either mats or these weight platforms that the board will provide information on. This is a unique gym in that it's located in the cellar below a commercial, it's below a restaurant. So this is, we would submit that it differs from the other CrossFit gyms which are located below residential, where there is potentially more room for adverse impacts.
What if the restaurant closes and it turns into a quieter use? Or what if it turns into, a really kind of quiet type of restaurant or something like that can actually is sensitive to the sound?
Well,
I mean, you're counting on the restaurant use. That's part of the problem. You're counting on the restaurant use.
I wouldn't characterize it as counting on the restaurant use, but we would just say that the situation right now is that the location of the gym is it is underneath a commercial use that's amenable to this type of use, and at this point in time, while our application is pending, that is the scenario.
Right. But in addition to which, you have what I want to call, for lack of a better term, is a potentially sensitive receptor coming in next door. There's a museum that is talking about concern about vibration and all that, and they haven't moved in. So if it turns out, this vibration issue is enormously difficult. And if it turns out that these drops are not being properly managed and the neighboring facility starts to complain, that's why keeping you on a short term is a way to address that. Because, and if at the end of 2 years it turns out everything's fine, then we can talk about a much longer grant.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay.
And as far as a submission, I don't know that we'll need too much time.
Right, okay. Are there any speakers on this item? Okay, so let's close it first.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Okay, so in order for you to, for instance, make the May 12th schedule, I don't know if you could actually do that. Let's stick with the 19th. So then it means a submission on April 30th for a hearing on May 19th.
What decision?
Decision on May 19th, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Item
you.
number 26, 16914BZ, 325 Avenue Y, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, Jay Goldstein for the applicant. We will be replacing, as attorney of record, Simon's Wright for this application. So we request an adjournment based on the previous schedule. My client has actually met with DOH. We're amending the plans and we'll be submitting to them hopefully by the end of the day for their sign off on the new proposal and the amendment to certain classrooms, and we'll submit it to the board as soon as we have it. And we know that the April 23rd submission date, which we'll still try and keep.
But there was a lot of programmatic requirement stuff that was missing.
Right, a lot of it will be addressed. I can't speak for what went on. I will be approaching it from my direction and approaching it from my
Yeah,
you know,
you just got
experience.
here. There's a lot to do, and you probably should be listening to the videotapes.
I have the
so some of it will
transcripts.
be
I've reviewed the
painful.
videos and I've had the transcripts, and I've, for the last 2 weeks, been elbow and shoulder deep in it. So now if we can
But
keep
there's
it.
actually grants, sorry. Right. Okay, so yeah, in addition to which, we have air quality issues and DOT issues, so I don't think you should rush your, because we have to defer to them
Okay.
on those agencies, so you might as well do this right. Because, by the way, we've heard this a lot, and we'd like to hear a really, really good, well-organized argument, submission, perfect, everything, right? And it's, yeah, we really need to see that.
I will do my best.
Okay, so because we really need to
a lot of
see that,
pressure.
I'd rather give you a month to get it done, okay? So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So to submit on, no, that puts you, submit on May 14th for
Okay.
a hearing on June 2nd.
Is there a hearing between then?
There's no, see,
There's
that's the
May
thing.
19th and then there's nothing in between?
There's only the 19th and nothing the
Memorial Day.
following week. But because, one of the reasons I'm thinking such an earlier submission is this has been a very, very difficult application,
Right.
and we need extra time to go through it. It'll actually help you if we look
Understood.
at it earlier.
Okay, so then, so May 14th and
May
then,
14th for a hearing on the 2nd.
okay. Fine,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Item number 27, 23214BZ, 946 Pennsylvania Avenue, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, Josh Rhinesmith for the applicant. I know the parking issue on the adjacent parking lot has been a source of mystery and befuddlement for both me and I believe some of the commissioners. I'm not sure why in the Department of Buildings biz system that the address 850 is nowhere to be found, neither are the block and lot. However, the management company was able to actually locate a certificate of occupancy for the parking lot, which identifies 360 spaces for the building at 1000 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Great.
And I also included
Good job.
with that, it wasn't me. I wish I had my expediters down at the Department of Buildings. Nobody was able to find anything. And the second document I included was a historical tax map because the certificate of occupancy identifies both lots 1 and I believe it's 20, but they were merged into a single tax lot, lot 1. So I just wanted to submit that as well.
So I'm thinking, the original idea was to have the owner record a restrictive deck to clear this up, but now I'm like, can you get this into the buildings department in some normal way?
I will do whatever I can so that shows up on biz.
Yeah. So I'm not
That's
exactly
beyond
sure.
my-
Is there a way
If they
for us
reach
to
out to
do this?
legal, DOB Legal will help you. This happens from time to time, and they have IT people that can get it scanned in within a matter of days.
And then finally create a bin number and everything? Doesn't have
Sure.
anything.
Yeah,
There's
they'll
no
do the
bin
whole-
number. there's
Yeah, I
nothing.
mean, the address didn't have anything, the block and lot. Even when we were at the Department of Buildings, we couldn't find any actual application records other than their ledger reports that show what was going on. So I was very relieved to finally find this.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for doing this. So, all right. So,
Well, I had
sorry?
a question about when I went to the site, about over half of the site was used for bus parking.
Okay, I will bring that up to the owner. Again, we are just a tenant in
know.
a small space. I don't have control of everything that they do.
Right.
And it's something that I will direct to them.
For 360 cars, though, is the...
How many
but
buses
how
is
did-
that?
How many buses is 360 cars? Okay. But that's a different thing, isn't that? What is
I think it's
that?
an enforcement
It's
issue.
an enforcement issue with
Yeah,
DOB, we
unfortunately,
just
but
alert DOB.
To the extent that
That's fine.
you can advise your client to advise someone, then I think.
I will do that.
Right, because otherwise we have no choice but, right? Okay, so we can close this again, right? Can we, and we can take care of this part, right? Can we submit it to DOB
sure, we
and
can
say,
share
can
it
you
with them."
please put this on? Okay, so we can close and grant. You've done a good job.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so are there any speakers on this? For a motion to close then?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
And for a motion to grant?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Item number 28, 289-14BZ, 2232 36 31st Street, Queens. I'm tight, I'm going to play those numbers.
Good afternoon, Frank St. Jacques, Sheldon Lobel, PC for the applicant. I'm just gonna.
Give it to John, maybe. There you go, thank you. It makes it
Get me into the
easier.
hearing.
Thank you, John. It's easier.
So we attended the executive session yesterday and heard the board's comments. I've submitted some photographs showing the plantings that have been installed in the interior, I guess interior meaning the inside of the wall and the exterior of the site. And we'll comment on those. I just want to note that I've been in touch with the architect and I've asked them to remove any illegible text from those plans. They've already started doing so, and they're simply using digital rather than, I guess, something that was not digital. So those should reproduce properly. We hear the board's concerns regarding the plantings at the exterior that with respect to the plants being in soil versus in the boxes as shown. I hope to alleviate some of the board's concerns with respect to those plans. The client is entering an agreement with a maintenance company, excuse me, a landscaping company for maintenance of the trees in the exterior. So to simply ensure that those plants thrive and don't suffer the same fate as the previous plantings. They had terrible luck, as you saw in our last submissions and my last appearance here before the board, that those plants didn't fare well in soil. They did so, and they chose this route based on the proposal that I also submitted with those photographs. That proposal indicates that the soil is poor and there's bad shade conditions at the rear of the site. They invested in total about 20 cubic yards of soil to ensure the plant, high quality soil, to ensure the plants survive and thrive in that environment. And we believe that this is an attractive and effective long-term solution for the plantings at the exterior and the interior of the site. Note that the exterior plants are holly, as is shown in the proposal, and the interior are birch trees. They're not blooming yet, but they'll have leaves as the seasons change. Again, as we understand it, the purpose of these plantings at the exterior is to provide screening for the acoustic wall, which, as you'll note from our last submission, has also been stuccoed and painted in a neutral color to create a more pleasant appearance. We submit that, or we understand that the board was concerned with its appearance prior to the stuccoing and the painting. We believe that the plants in the planters not only will thrive, but provide that screening of the wall.
I mean, I think the concern we had about these above-grade planters, though, which is why we commented last time, was that they're more likely to freeze because the soil is above grade, right? That's one reason why even with planters, you put the planting beds in the ground, right?
Understood.
So, but rather than start all over again, if we just had a condition that they need to be maintained,
And replaced.
And replaced as necessary.
I think that's absolutely fair, and I do know, I don't believe it's in the proposal, but I believe the landscape firm confirmed that the plants would be okay in the wintertime. I can provide the board with some sort of confirmation of that. I just don't recall exactly what that conversation was.
Yeah, I mean, if they really believe that, they'd guarantee the plants and they'd replace them within, a year of their...
I believe that's part of the maintenance term that they're negotiating now. As you can see from that proposal, they spent nearly $10,000 on the plants alone, not including the materials that were used for the containers, for the plantings themselves. I will just note in the first two photos showing the interior, there's what looks like lamps. Those are citronella lamps. They provide no illumination. And the applicant, after installing those, I guess, covers on the wall itself to install wall washers there, decided just to forego that lighting on the wall altogether. So they're just going to use candlelight outside. They determined that was sufficient lighting, and they wouldn't need any of the overhead lighting or the wall washers.
What's the menu look like?
That's why you have your iPhone.
Right?
That's the story.
Okay.
Fish.
All right, so I think you can submit the photographs formally. You can update the submission just to show that the planting will be maintained. Do we have anything else that we needed to do? I'm trying to think if there was... What?
Do they have to revise the plans?
No, I think your plans reflect... Right, they did revise...
So what I've asked the architect to do while they're dealing with the legible, we'll just ensure that the plans reflect what's shown here.
I was hoping we just can close today, that's all. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so for a motion to close?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Okay, and what do you think, how much time? 2 weeks?
2 weeks would probably be great.
So...
Or would be great.
If you could submit, 2 weeks would make you submitting on the 30th of April for a hearing on May 19th. I mean, sorry, decision on May 19th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New cases, item number 1, 2914BZ, 255 East 27th Street, Brooklyn.
Louis Garfinkel, and that's 1255, 27.
1255?
It's 1255, yeah. I'm not sure how that...
1255?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Lou.
It's on the agenda that way.
Okay.
So I was... Okay.
Okay, so did you hear our...
Yeah, I heard the comments yesterday. It seems... I mean, we did add to the application, on the application documents, that it's a legalization, but the existing one-story on the plot plan, I think, should be clarified that is to be legalized. I think that was the...
The one story at the rear.
At the rear, yeah.
Right, needs to be clarified, right.
That it's not just one story existing, it should say legalize or
Yes.
a different hatch.
But the way we need this to look is, what are the drawings of the 1992 permitted structure, the one the DOB permitted? We need a set of that. That's the legal structure, right?
Okay.
Then another one that shows as-built. That's the structure that was permitted plus the illegal changes,
So that would be my existing condition drawing that I have, that would be that drawing.
I guess. But
Yeah.
we need to be able to see the difference between what was legal and what's
Right.
not. So what's not should be a different rendered wall type, right?
Okay.
And then we need another drawing that shows the total request, which is the difference between the 92 permitted structure and the proposed. Okay?
I understand. Okay.
So that's, your base is the 92 approved.
Okay.
And then, right, okay. So that way we get to see the full scope of the request, which includes the legalization. No 6-foot greenhouse.
Even though it's subject to DOB approval, like I've done that.
No, this is called creep, right? You're asking for a 20-foot rear yard. That's what you're asking for, not a 14-foot rear yard.
right? That works when you have a 30-foot rear yard. Then you get 6 feet if you're a real greenhouse, which are maybe or maybe not a real greenhouse. Okay. All right,
Okay.
then, so what about all that other stuff you know that you're normally supposed to submit to make a finding for why the rear yard could be reduced and why the building meets neighborhood character?
Yeah, I'll do a character study. I think in this case I'll do, yeah, okay, I got to go over the FARs of the adjoining, the regular characters. But the rear yards, I think I'll just do the adjacent.
So normally there's a plan
Yeah.
that shows all the adjoining rear yards on the block. Well, the ones around you are the ones that are critical, right?
I think 'cause it's
how
one-
deep they are.
Right.
And if they're obstructed with something, what is that obstruction? Is it a one-story garage? What is it, right? And then you do a 360 view photographs
know.
of the rear. So if you know, how come you didn't do it?
I just, maybe, I don't know if it was on the comments or, this is filed a long time ago,
Okay, well.
But I'm just saying, being that it's one story, I don't know if I'll do the whole block, a whole block of all the rear yards. I'd do the 360 and the adjacent, I'm just saying,
Right, but we need to see in plan.
yeah, okay.
Right? What's the condition of the rear yards that are adjoining to the rear, to the
Yes.
sides? 'Cause
Okay.
that's what this project affects. Yeah, you
Right.
don't need the whole block, but they need to be dimensioned, right?
Yes.
And how many stories, if there's obstructions. Or actually, how many stories are these buildings? Because sometimes they'll have like a little porch addition that's 1 story, and it's not 3 stories, for example. So that has something to do with your argument, right?
Right, I understand.
Okay, and then to go to the other, and then,
It was the 8'3" side yard.
Right,
I'll
so
change it to
that-
8'6". I can do
Well, I
that.
don't know, it depends on,
The survey says 8'6". I don't know, maybe when we made these drawings.
I don't know
if
what
we-
the
yeah.
1992 plans
Okay,
use.
I'll check that. I don't know if it was clear. Okay.
Also, regarding the legality, the Sanborns don't show a one-story structure in the front. And I think the second story in the front is also illegal.
Just that was on the 92 plan, so I...
I don't,
yeah, yeah.
when you gave us, it's the 1992 plans, actually, you didn't give us all the sheets.
I know, that's what I...
And when you look at what is called the second floor plan, it's actually the first floor. So you never gave us the second floor
So they
plan.
don't, no, they don't, that's what they gave
So
me.
we don't
and-
know, you didn't give us
Right.
the plan for the second floor. And it's not on the Sanborn, and I don't know how the DOB could have approved it. Because it's in the front, part of it is in the front yard. So.
All right, we'll look at that, okay.
So look at that front
Yeah.
yard, 'cause it's 16 feet, right? And you're saying that it's a pre-existing condition, and there was no real evidence that that was a pre-existing condition. The dimensions didn't seem to jive with what you said from the 92 plan. It looked, so figure out whether or not it's actually 16 feet.
Okay.
And whether you're permitted to have that 16 feet.
Also, in looking at your existing plans, I question your attic floor area of 297 square feet. You have this storage area, which is still under the dormer, which you're not counting, I think.
Okay, but that,
I don't-
it's under
it
8 feet.
seems-
Okay,
I don't know about that. If you look at the dormers, if the front part is counted, I don't know why because it's under the same dormer.
Well, that dormer is this, that's the portion I'm counting. That might be in the middle, I don't know. Okay, I'll have to clarify that,
Okay.
yeah. Okay,
okay,
Yeah.
got it?
got it.
Okay, so,
Like 2 weeks to submit?
no, you don't have it. 2 weeks is not enough.
Not enough time? Okay.
So here's
Yeah.
the going rule, the theme, if you will, of today's hearing. No incomplete submissions, don't want them, we'll send them back to you, okay? A thorough, complete submission that makes the argument for your case, and not, no, I forgot, I know, I meant it, it was a while ago, I forgot. No. No dogs ate your homework, none of that, okay? So you need at least a month to do this work.
Okay.
And since we don't have a hearing on the 26th, then You could submit on the 14th of May, for a hearing on June 2nd.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Item number 2, 182 14BZ, 1977 Homecrest Avenue, Brooklyn.
It's okay.
I'm afraid to open my mouth because we're going to be disagreeing again. So I don't want to.
Well, as you can see, you're not the only one.
That did make me feel better. It definitely did. So, definitely did. You know, we attorneys, we're not so thick-skinned.
Really?
Yeah, you've worked with them. You know the bunch. We attended your review session yesterday, and of course, I don't know if I took it out of context, but it seemed as if that we were asking for floor area, you questioned the floor area, asking for the side yards, you questioned the side yards. It seems like the rear yard was the only thing that kind of got through without too much of a shot, but even that had a shot at it.
So let's start over. Okay. So the reason for the side yard, actually, I never really got a response, and I need you to respond, but I also wanted to have a discussion here. I never really understood how, if the requirement is a total of 13 feet, a combination of a 5-foot minimum and whatever else it takes to get you to 13 feet. So usually that's 5 and 8 if that's what we're doing. So if you're already non-complying and the reduction of the bigger rear yard would make you less than 13 feet, I'm not getting how we have the authority to allow you to reduce that bigger side down.
I think we found a case that a previous board pondered with the same questions. It's case number 3, 8211BZ, which is at the, hopefully they collated it correctly, at the end of the package.
Yeah, it's at the end.
And that case, which obviously you don't have the time to go through in extensive detail right now, I don't know if it had the issue that you just raised, where it's already below where it's above 13 feet. So it's just a total of 13 feet. But it did allow it to bring it down to below the 13-foot width, and the discussion that came up was whether or not the board is empowered to do it, and the conclusion was the board is empowered to do it.
Okay, we'll look at that.
And you can take a look at that.
But on the other hand, it's not necessarily relevant here because you're relying on, as Commissioner Montanez pointed out yesterday, and I also noticed, there's this 8-foot deep, or maybe it's only 6-foot deep, strange little extension that was probably built as a tool shed. Like, I can't figure out what were those things built for that there are so many of actually in this neighborhood.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. After you commented on it, I went up and I looked up and down on all the sandboard. The sandboard map we gave you from the 20s showed probably from the 30s, probably 15, 20 houses that all had the same condition.
They all have it. I'm curious what it is, but I don't see how that incursion, which was probably something like a tool shed, gets to be the rule for the rest of the house.
How do you get to that it's a tool shed?
Well, I'm just saying, like, what? It's such a weird thing. Whoever would design something with this offset odd appendage on the side?
I don't know.
So there was probably a story behind it. So, just a second. So anyway,
Sure.
But independent of how it got there, how does that little bit of a nose get to control the entire rear yard?
Side yard.
I mean, side yard for the entire building, and not to mention the fact that I am super nervous about bringing buildings closer to the side yard, given fire spread issues. So there's a reason for these side yards.
As is called out, well, to the fire spread issue as an aside, because I don't quite know how to respond to that, other than the fact that the zoning does allow for it in this district. This was called out in the resolution we just gave you. They have at the very end of it, actually, I include section 2349 at the end of the handout. I should have included, there should be, ZR section 2349. And to just go, well, I should go right to the fire since we spoke about it. 2349 actually allows within districts such as this for the buildings to actually touch each other, to abut each other, but
That's different. That, it's a different fire treatment if they touch.
It's different fire treatment, but nonetheless, the remainder of the block is developed upon with homes just like this. One home after the other, all with a series of yards, all at the same size. But to stick to your first point, which was how does this form the basis? Why wouldn't it form the basis? It would be my response. The language of the text says that if you have a non-complying side yard, which we posit it is an existing non-complying side yard, that side yard may be continued. It doesn't state anywhere within the text a minimum distance or depth of the home with that side yard. And I've had, through the course of my practice for the past 15 years, probably represented well over 200 homes before this board, where we've had very small side yards, a small portion of the house that's had a bump out, and we've fashioned the entire enlargement off that side yard. And I know that the board's attorneys are probably familiar with that as well. They've seen them. I don't know them off the top of my head, but in my visualizing the pictures, we've done it over and over again. So it has been accepted by the board, and we say here that it should be included
I can
here.
understand it for a vertical enlargement, where you're maintaining that non-compliance vertically, because now you're building on top of the.
Well, that's not actually in the language, though.
Yeah, you're allowed to do it in a, you're allowed to.
A horizontal. The special permit allows for the horizontal enlargement, not for the vertical.
Well, if that were true, then you'd never.
Well, as for
have second
horizontal,
floors.
well, as for the main, go on, I'm sorry.
Right, you never have second floors then on the bungalows, so you're getting.
Right, you get the vertical,
horizontal.
but the general principle in zoning, of course, special permit aside, is that you don't get the benefit of a vertical enlargement when you have a pre-existing non-complying yard. What it does give you, the special permit is what gives you that benefit.
So, but still, because I'm really uncomfortable about this idea of relying on a little bit of a 6-foot section to enable 50 feet of the building to only have a 2-foot side yard. Why can't the house have a 5-foot side yard and still function?
This is like a prime example of what we've spoken about before, where a homeowner has actually bought the home ahead of time before coming here. And the reason it can't
This
be...
is the answer is the architect needs to answer this question, not you.
No, I could help answer
No,
the question.
actually, I need to see drawings and what's wrong with a 5-foot side yard project.
But I'm curious why, and I know this has been the kind of day with us, so I don't mean to prolong the day, but the special permit is not a need-based request. When I go in for a driver's license, which is a special permit, nobody has any right at all to ask me why I need it. The special permit language in the state for the DMV says that if I pass the test, I'm entitled to have it. Now, you're asking me the question, why do I need the 5 feet? With no disrespect, I don't think...
This is a discretionary action. This is not a driver's license.
Well, of course, well, it's a special permit. It's still a special permit. A driver's license is a special permit. I'm using it as an analogy, but maybe that's not the best example.
No, it's pretty bad
But
analogy.
this, we get this question all the time, though, at the community board. You say, they have enough bedrooms. Why do they need more? And
No, it's not
our
about
response is,
bedrooms.
no, I know it's not
about
bedrooms.
design.
The design of the home,
So instead of having this Talmudic argument like the rabbi was so proud of,
right?
go back, ask the architect to do some drawings and to show us what the building would look at like with a better side yard. Because I'm not persuaded
I understand.
that you drive the entire side yard based on this little strange nose that was.
But I don't know if
shit.
you're basing that from a legal position within the
Yeah,
law.
Well, because it's not clear. What?
There's a neighborhood character finding, that's what
Yeah.
Oh, I anticipated you were going to suggest that.
You have your mic on, David?
Of course, there's a neighborhood character finding.
What the requirement is, the definition. The yard is defined a certain way. You argue that the yard starts and ends at that little carbuncle or whatever it is. And you're right about that, but then the board is evaluating it further and saying, what is the impact of what you're proposing on neighborhood?
100%. And by the way, it's not that small a portion. I mean, it's 8 feet in depth of a 40-foot long home. So it's almost 20% of the home, the 8-foot section in the front.
Now the argument's being made that this has to be sort of what we want to see.
I'm happy to make that. To be honest, I didn't anticipate when the client purchased the home before the new board took effect. We didn't even anticipate this would be an issue. But we'll vet it out more. I just passed up some photographs. And the reason for me passing up the photographs is that your council mentioned neighborhood character. And that's what I've been bringing these applications based on. This is the block. The first photo you see, the home is to the right, a couple of houses to the right. We put the addresses up on top. You're staring right in the middle is 1967 Homecrest, which I know doesn't address the board's concern of how close the houses are to one another. I'll get a better shot of the distance between the two houses to the left for our next hearing, the white one and the big one. But the one in the middle is very emblematic of the homes that are built with almost no side yards. They have a driveway on one side.
Is that a 40-foot frontage?
I don't know, we'll get the frontages for, Ian, could you look up 1971 while we're talking? Similar conditions, so your board could have even more examples, is it's how long? It's 40, Mr. Rasmussen is saying.
Parking driveway next to
We have
that one.
well, no, it's a shared parking driveway. Only one where the station wagon is that one.
How do you know, what do you mean? It's double width parking.
It's shared with the house to the right of that.
Shared because they're nice to each other.
They're next to each other.
By ownership.
Right, so this one goes with this house.
Yeah.
And that driveway goes with
That
that.
doesn't make it shared, that just means they didn't build a fence.
Right, I didn't mean, I meant the driveway area.
Yeah,
But this home,
Shared.
not really shared. But going to this home, there's no side yard, or a very small side yard. This is just up and down the block. If you go to the home to the,
How do we know that's not shared? Anyway, that's at least 10 feet between the two houses, which is the critical thing. 10 feet between the two houses.
I understand that, but again, I'm trying to give you more examples. If you go to the next page,
That one showed me 10 feet between two houses.
which is further down the block,
But in looking at this case that you've given us, that you say is dispositive of the side yard issue, even that case said that there was 10 feet from the property line to the adjoining house, and that adjoining structure.
Right.
I think it was a multifamily house, right? So that played into having less than the ability, having less than.
But here there's 7 feet.
required, side yard. So-
Here there's 7 feet.
But here you're sort of showing us kind of the same thing. You have all of this space on either side.
Well, what I'm trying to show you, this was just done in response to the board's comments yesterday. The home, if you look at the first picture, the home to the left, the white home, is right up on top of that home. And if you flip to the next page,
Well, I can't see that unless I saw it in plan.
we're going to get you much.
When you're straight on, we can see it, but when you look to the left, it's perspective.
Right, of course. The purpose of us preparing these photographs since the review session was simply to show you, for right now, the fact that the character of the neighborhood is homes that are built on 40-foot wide lots with a driveway on the right side, and on the left side, homes almost up on the property line. And that condition repeats itself up and down the block over and over.
If you have a 10-foot driveway, it's a different thing. Like in this 1954 versus 1950, there's clearly 10 feet between the
But look to the left. Look to the left of that. It's not clearly 2 feet. I'll get you a straight-on shot. I didn't prepare the photographs for that. But the house to the left, and Mr. Rasmussen is here, we'll map all this out, and we'll show you. But the houses to the left, again, are one on top of each other. I did not prepare the photographs with that eye, that was the board's concern. I thought the board's concern was the character of the neighborhood with a house with a 2-foot side yard, and that a 2-foot side yard on one zoning lot was not really the neighborhood. But what I'm trying to suggest here is that the 2-foot side yard on a zoning lot is in fact the common condition throughout. Now, you're raising a secondary issue, which is now that we're beyond zoning, it's the fire safety. And what I'd like to do for that, I don't know how to address the fire safety concerns that the board has. I don't know where the board draws its lines and rules over what's too close for fire safety and how that corresponds with the fire department.
The reason that there's separation like this in the zoning resolution, which dates back to 1916, has to do with fire spread. And the reason that there's rear yards the size of it has to do with tuberculosis. So that's what it's about. They all
Gotcha.
came about from disease and
fire.
Right? So, and so here we are undoing, what Lewis Hines kind of prevented happening in the future. We're undoing all that. Now the guy's dead.
I don't know if you're undoing it necessarily, but I understand what the board's issue is. Going.
Just be aware also that in the case that you're showing us, that it was a smaller lot, and I think if I remember.
On which one? On the one that we handed up?
Yeah, it was like 85 foot deep as opposed to 100 foot. So I think part of our deliberation was the fact that you know, to give the homeowner a little extra space because they didn't have a deep enough lot. So I think that's probably,
Right.
you know, comes into the conversation, which is not necessarily the same condition that we have here. So I think you have to look at the totality of what we discussed, not just simply that we decided that, you know, a particular side yard was appropriate just because. There was some...
I don't know about, the lot area there is, am I reading it correct? Maybe I'm in the wrong resolution. Oh, I was on the wrong resolution, I apologize.
Yeah, right. So it's not exactly apples to apples here, and there were other considerations. So I think if you want to make the argument, you have to figure out what considerations for this particular lot would
Yeah,
fall
it says,
in line.
the board notes that the reduction of the complying side yard from 8 to 5 may be warranted in certain cases and when there is compliance with all of the special permit findings. So when it's warranted in certain cases indicated, I didn't read the rest, I just saw that you underlined that, right? So it sounds like the board looked at the certain cases and whether or not this meets the certain cases concept is another thing.
There's other discussion, just, you know.
I understand. That other considerations that come into play during the discussion.
I mean, the other cases that we see most of the time, it's much clearer. The entirety of the side yard is built to 2'1" or whatever, or even 6 inches. So, and it would be kind of ridiculous to offset the addition.
So let me ask you a question. So here you have a homeowner that bought the home before coming to the board, before you took office. We filed the application. They've spent 8 months prosecuting it through the whole process. And from what I'm hearing...
Why did they spend 8 months?
It's not, I don't get the chance to tell you what's wrong on your side. You can only tell me what's wrong on my side. So I'll leave it at that. But having said that, now we're at the point where you essentially, the phone call I'm going to be giving them in another half hour at 4 o'clock is, it doesn't look like the board wants to give you the yards, if I'm reading it correctly. Doesn't look like the board wants to give you the floor area, because the board had, why can't you bring the floor area down to complying? And now we're talking about the rear yard. So why was the homeowner, why they even pay the mortgage for the last year and go through the process? Shouldn't, when we filed the application, shouldn't they at least been told, you don't really have a case here? That's the problem we're coming up against. We're putting this very, you know, in the cases especially that are midstream. I'm coming in with cases now, but a case like this, it really, from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, board, but it sounds to me like you're giving me very strong arguments why we shouldn't be enlarging in the side yard. We haven't talked about FAR yesterday, but the comment was that if we drop the side yard, we don't need the FAR waiver, and we haven't spoken about rear yard. So it just seems like we really shouldn't be bringing the applications at all. It doesn't seem like they really have much of a shot to get what the clients are trying to get. Now here, the homeowners, I'm doing my house right now. We just broke ground on an enlargement last Monday. I can't tell you the excruciating amount of time we spent discussing 18 inches in certain rooms, and what a tremendous, I'm sure you can understand. This is in a house, in a big piece of property in Long Island, not in suburban New York City. And we couldn't find space. I mean, just every 18 inches impacted everything else. So here, where he's asking for the difference in the side yards here, which is really a 3 foot more than he's allowed to have, is what he's asking for here. And really what that's going to accomplish is going to give a lot more room in the house, which is what they're all trying to get at. That's what they're all after. They're not trying, you see, they're not mansions. They're not big houses.
So your job is to make an argument, right? Not to beg. So go back, work with the architect, see what can be done that doesn't require the side yard, or make some kind of, I don't know if we can even do I don't even know if a compromise is appropriate depending on the analysis, but let's just see. I don't know what can be done, right? And as Commissioner Hinkson pointed out, on that other application, there were extenuating circumstances that said a side yard can be reduced in extenuating circumstances, right? So, you know, that one went to whether or not the 9 foot side yard can be reduced to an 8 foot side yard, right? That's what that conversation was about.
Right.
Not about whether the little nose drives the entirety of the side yard or whether it meets neighborhood character, right? You're supposed to make the argument. That's your job, right? So go do that. See if you can make the argument.
it seems to me that it's almost an insurmountable argument to make. It doesn't, I mean, I will submit, but it really seems to me that we're in a position where the application is really dead on arrival.
It sounds like Chair is asking you to take a look at the street, and it seems like you've already done that with the side yard, the comparable side yard condition that you say is there. Look at the layout of the houses existing and proposed, and whether there's some number of bedrooms or configuration that revolves around the location of the stair, or where the foundations are, or what the agreement is with the side yard, or what the rear yard is, the meaning of this front of the building with the appearance of the street. Like, maybe it would interrupt the streetscape if you made it narrower. I don't know.
Well, going to that point, you had mentioned before some type of compromise, so to speak. I know the homeowner is dying for the space where it's really hitting them is at the bedrooms upstairs, really the one at the rear, and also at the kitchen, which also happens to be at the rear, which are both looking for the space to get wider on. So if there was some sort of almost a U, like you see in buildings with, you see in multiple dwellings where they carve out light and air wells almost along the side, if the side almost went like,
Well, I'm not going to design it for you, Frank.
I'm not asking you to, I'm asking in a compromise discussion, you had indicated you weren't comfortable with the 2 feet, so say this is the front where it's at 2 feet, we kept the front, if we pulled back a portion of the house, and then we went at the rear, we pushed it back out again at the side, giving them the space that they're looking for in the bedroom upstairs in that section of the house, and also the space they're looking for in the kitchen downstairs. I'm just positing the idea, because you said you weren't comfortable with the 2 feet, but extending the whole way.
Right.
So maybe a portion of it. But I understand what you're saying, and I understand what the board is saying. It's just,
See, I mean, the inspections are, I think, fairly simple. You need to make an argument, working with Ian, this is a neighborhood character finding because, and I don't know what the answer is, because I don't know this neighborhood, and I don't know what's been built here, and I don't know what the neighbors are like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And then you need to work with the architect to say, how can you respond to these problems we have? Right? That's the role of the architect, respond to the problems. Client wants this. Issues about my argument that are not quite holding water, therefore I need architect to figure out how to do it like this. It's actually a very simple set of criteria.
It is.
It's not a owner, here's a set of drawings when you're buying this building, here's a set of drawings you're going to have. Because that's not how an owner buys a piece of property. I'm sorry, no matter what cloud we're on, right? That's not how you buy a piece of property.
no, of course
So
not.
you don't
Of
buy
course
it
not.
assuming approval.
I apologize. We just
Yes.
caught a little off guard from the owners, the call to the clients after the review session, telling them the problems. And then the follow-up question is, didn't you see this coming? And historically, as I've prosecuted these applications, this hasn't been the issue. So the clients are not expecting of what's occurring, and they're not expecting the conversation. The side yard issues weren't always, it's pretty much been
So maybe you
the
can
side
submit
yard.
some analysis of how this board has allowed the reduction of a side yard for the
Yeah,
full length
no,
of the
we
building
will.
to 2 feet. Maybe it's been another
Yeah.
reduction, but 2 feet is pretty, I mean, I'm not
We
familiar
will.
with
We'll-
any when we.
Right.
We'll give you a full analysis. We're just trying to, tell you where we
That's how
are.
you make your case, right? I mean, I wouldn't be so quick to give up my position, nor to try to get, some sort of compromise. I would try to, methodically lay out for this board what your position is and why you think you're right. That's kind of what, lawyers do.
Yeah, no, but I'm also trying to be the lawyer that's not coming before the board with what the board, on all these applications,
Arbitration portion.
right? All these applications, we don't want to keep repeating the same issue, that's all.
No, this is a different issue. This is that strange little
Yeah,
front
the
thing
front
that got
tee.
added mysteriously.
I'd like to,
Go ahead.
I'd like to add that the community board approved this, but in their remarks, they said many questions were raised from area residents regarding the extension of the side yard, extending the whole length of the building, the safety of the new 2.1-foot side yard. So the community board raised it, and it was one of their comments. And that was what a lot of the area residents were concerned about.
That's why I'm thinking of a couple of ideas, and we'll implement those, and we'll give you
Right.
the arguments.
And can I make one other comment? Could
Yes.
the architect please be consistent and either use feet and inches or decimal feet? because he's on the same drawing, and some things in inches and some things in a decimal, and it just makes me worry that it's not correct.
It's not consistent. He's not using a consistent measurement. I'll have him do that. Mr. Rasmussen wanted to say a few words also.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ian Rasmussen, Urban Cartographics. On behalf of the applicant, I heard a few of your comments about the materials we submitted, and there's a little bit more information we could provide. I think there was a height of a 2-story garage, which I've since found out since yesterday, has its own bin number, so I'd probably not even correctly terming it a garage when we refer to it. And there were a few other notes from your review session that we'll speak to. I wanted to just say something about the neighborhood character finding in the context of this special permit, just because I am submitting so much material on it. In my reading of the section, after I heard your concerns about this dogleg portion at the ground floor, it seems that the special permit incorporates into it certain presumptions that certain things are likely to disrupt neighborhood character, and those would be things like altering required front yard depth, overall building heights. So the authority of the board to grant the special permit home enlargement is already limited in a sense by what city planning saw as particular zoning controls that were likely, if violated, to impact neighborhood character. So, I mean, the fact that the section was written so that you can't waive a front yard requirement, but you can relax a rear yard requirement says something, I think, from the start about how city planning felt about whether or not waiving certain bulk regulations did or did not invite an effect on neighborhood character.
You don't want me to read that letter from David Karnofsky again, do you?
Oy.
I thought that had to do, did that not have to do with several pre-existing lots?
It had to do with the neighborhood character finding with respect to that, the building that was being proposed, and how it was too tall and it extended too far into the rear yard based on adjoining properties.
Fine.
You don't want me to read that again.
I would only say that the subsection that allows for, I think, what we normally term the straight line extension, which would be sort of continuing of a non-complying yard, that would seem to instruct the applicants or invite the architects to specifically, you know, take the bulk of the building in that direction. Mm-hmm. So as much as the special permits tells you that you're not going to be able to waive certain things, it tells you you are going to be able to waive others, and it seems that we're just inviting this debate to occur over and over.
The zoning resolution obviously doesn't predict every single circumstance, right? And it was predicting, in typical, the little bungalow that's built straight out, too close to the side lot line, and they want to add a bedroom at the back, and it would, or even something on top, even though they probably didn't even expect that, and you would never extend the little rear yard thing and set it back with a bigger side yard, because that would be just a ridiculous shape. And you would never structurally add vertically without staying on your same building line, because structurally that would be just a total ridiculous
and I think that my point is only that it shouldn't come as any surprise that the design that the architect submitted was what it was. It seems to me that if I just given him the section, that's what he would naturally return.
But the zoning resolution contemplated a box that you extend, and it didn't contemplate this very anomalous moment. I have never
You're referring to this little dog leg?
This dog leg, I have never seen.
Hold on, I have to disagree. I have to disagree with you. If you, I mean, we take a look at the map, and they're all over the place. I saw it on the zoning map, but I have never seen it in any of these other applications. But how we could conclude that city planning looked at this area of Brooklyn that is replete with these little dog leg shaped houses, then wrote that subsection in that way, but didn't intend this effect, that would be extraordinarily strange.
No, it would not be. You know that would not be strange. They looked at a box and they said, "Extend the box, keep going." You know that.
No, I mean, the language is perfectly clear. It's not ambiguous what it says, and there are countless numbers of those houses all over the place. My personal thinking. One explanation might be that so long as any portion of a building occupies the side yard, that obstructs what would otherwise be a clear area from the front to the back of the lot, And so once that dog leg swings over to the side there, leaving only a few feet of side yard, it sort of, in some sense, spoils the open side yard that would be between those buildings. Right? So if the dog leg were to be extended towards the rear of the property, that wouldn't even be perceived from the street because it's at the front of the building.
Well, it's perceived from the neighbor.
Perceived from the neighbors, but,
That's what we're talking about here.
right. But most of us will perceive the character of the neighborhood from the street. So I can certainly understand that city planning would look at this and say, you know, if you're going to extend, you might as well go into that side yard that no one can see already.
City planning might say that, but it's not clear that that's what city planning said.
Okay.
All right?
Make the argument. If it's the character.
We'll make the arguments, but
These tall buildings are the predominant feature. then-
Let me ask, because I'd like to get to a position where we're not even making arguments to the board, we're just going through and you're happy with what we're submitting and we're getting the approval for the clients that they could accommodate their families, because that's really all we're doing here. It's all families. It's not people in it for the money. How, I'm thinking, and I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm listening to what Mr. Rasmussen is saying, I'm hearing the dog leg idea, and I just want to get your opinion. I know you say make the argument. What if we did strike a compromise and we chopped off a small piece of the front of the home where the dog leg is, took a foot off, and made the yard almost, say, 3 feet straight down the side? Is that something with a fire protection measure and a character of the community that the Madam Chair, I'd rather not go through numerous exercises giving you different ideas and then wasting the client's time doing that. And your time.
There'd be an open area of 8 feet between adjacent homes.
Would it be would it be?
Well, the
Yeah, there's 5 feet next door.
It's a 5-foot side yard.
And you'd have 3 feet.
And 3 feet, I'm thinking, while Ian's talking, I'm
Not
thinking,
including the eaves, but, you know.
that would actually give, from a planning perspective, it would open up a view to the side yard, as Mr. Rasmussen pointed out, it'd open it up a little bit more. It would give a consistent side yard. It would give the 8 feet that you're looking for. I can convince my client that they could live without a foot fairly easily, and it could maintain the character, which I'll show to you, as I started to in the photographs. Just talking it out so we don't waste time.
Okay, we need to, I just want to make sure we have the authority to do that kind of thing.
We
We do
would,
have the
but
authority?
Only if this, the
It
three of
meets
you
the
believe that it
right.
makes the.
Yeah, so first you have to make the character finding, because I'm not
Right.
sure that you did, certainly didn't yet, right?
Of course.
Right, so, you know, that's kind of what I keep saying again, it's the standard approach. You make the character finding yourself. You say, I have a great argument that I can show with circles and arrows and points and everything for why this can be like this. And in not one of those, it meets the finding because it meets the finding, which is often the reasoning that we see in these applications. So that you really do a study, you really make the finding. It isn't one of those findings that says it is so because I think it's so, right? And then that supports
All of the
what
others.
your instruction to the architect is. right?
Understood.
Okay? And that goes for the rear yard, right? The rear yard is not.
Yeah, we never even
not
spoke
done
about that.
with
We
this.
spent all the time focusing on the side yards. We never got to the rear.
It's the same thing. You need to, I forget what I said on the rear yard.
Well, the rear yard has another greenhouse.
Right.
In
Yeah.
the 20-foot
Right.
rear yard.
You can't start obstructing the obstruction for the greenhouse. I don't get that.
Well, we'll take the greenhouse, that was a discussion the board had yesterday. We'll take the greenhouse off the plans.
Right,
The
but
greenhouse is not a subject to the
But-
BSA.
oh, and then, so what wasn't clear at all was, now I remember, so Ian submitted some photographs, and the photographs said, look, it proves that there's something that's 2 stories someplace. I can't find, don't know what I'm looking at, it's not coordinated with anything, it wasn't shown on the plan. So the plan shows, the block plan just shows a bunch of little things. I don't
Ian
know,
Rasmussen
2
for the
stories, 4
applicant.
stories.
We submitted a cover letter, which
But
I'm starting to feel like you may not have had.
No. Have the cover letter. Cover letter's over here.
Yeah.
Drawings are over here. Drawings, words, 2 stories, 2-story garage, permitted, approved.
I would simply point out-
Photograph of, that's the photograph of the
Right,
garage.
the cover letter specifically noted the address of the building we were talking about and the phone
Listen
number.
to me, you didn't hear me.
She
Yeah.
wanted it in the plan.
Photographs and plans.
Yeah.
You can write on them. You can say,
Sure.
this is the 2-story garage to which we refer, right? This
Okay.
is the 2-story garage. Because I actually didn't know which one of those was the 2-story garage. Because you also don't show, you show block and lots on some things, you show addresses on other things. I'm not gonna go and check what's where.
well-
Your job is to show
Okay.
what's where, show us, make it easy for us.
I understand
The
what
reason you're
you're
having so much
saying.
trouble is you make it hard for
Well,
us.
Okay,
Okay? We're reading tons of applications, you know?
No, we'll make it easier for you.
Go through easily.
I understand your idea is to take the plans and to take Ian's work and mesh it into the plans so that you don't have to look through 2 or 3 different sources of
And figure
information.
it out.
You
Oh,
could look at the house, see the orientation of the house, you can then see the orientation of the other garages behind us, all while looking on that plan sheet.
Correct. And this photograph, it's a photograph of what? Because like, I want to say the, sort of the old-timer architects who don't rely on all this digital stuff, they literally, they take a pen and they write on the drawing and they say, at the photograph, and they say, this is what it's a picture of. That works really well because it says, this is what it's a picture of.
All right, I can see that. I can see how that's helpful. We haven't done that up
Yes.
until now. Nobody's done that, so we could.
It's also a really good check for coordination. You know, I mean, if you start to like write this stuff down, you then say, oh, you know, I think in my facts and findings, I actually said it was, 6 instead of 7, and I know it's 7 because I've got it right here on this picture, and I'm wrong. So that might help.
Right, it's a secondary source.
A question for you, though. Did you really mean 1.28 FAR?
Did we really need a
Did you mean
1.28?
it? Because you're in an R5 that's at 1.25.
Is it permitted?
So the question was, why are you at 1.
In other words, it just seemed like almost the math was,
Yeah.
it's almost like
Did you mean it?
negligible. But still, if you're going to reduce this, again, that's why.
I'm afraid to say I relied upon the architect's calculations again. So, I don't want to answer, but I took his calculations at face value. I didn't do the math, so I assumed he was right.
It just seems strange that you're at, you've got it as a right at 1.25, and you're asking for 1.28, and I'm like, why are you doing that? So, and even if you're taking off a portion of the house, you're probably now going to be under.
I was going to say, if we take a foot off down the whole side yard, it'd be 40 feet off the side of the house.
Attention that
I get it. I'm hearing what the board is saying.
Good, okay. All right. I lost my calendar.
How much time do we need?
How much time do we need? Where's my calendar?
I'd like to submit, if we can, in the second week in June. That'll give us time to put everything together adequately.
Good. Second week in June would make you the, let's see, 1, 2. In order to be still heard in June, though, you need to have submitted by June 4th.
That's okay, we can do that. That gives us adequate time. Because then we get into July, after July 4th, so that'd be great.
Yeah, okay.
June 4th and the hearing date.
Sorry, that would be for June 22. June 23rd, right? 1, 2, yeah, June 23rd.
Thank you.
Okay.
This concludes the public hearing for April 14, 2015.